When did we all get this dumb? Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about cats.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef. Come on, man. Use your brain. The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now.
All right. I think you guys can hear me now. We just did about an hour of a podcast without anybody being able to hear you. I just look like I'm miming it off. Kind of. And so this is the chef, Aaron Hanover. We are here in the Freestyle Man Cave studio here in Ohio, broadcasting for the Freestyle Creative Group. It's going to be a big show. I mean, we're re-recording. Obviously, I've gotten the practice of doing it the first time. And unlike the last time where we lost our fix for world peace, I'm going to just redo it, get back through it. And some of the things we're going to talk about is obviously Doge. Doge is a big thing in everybody's mind today. Everybody's got an idea about what they're doing. People are being fired. We know some people that are being laid off because of the government layoffs. And so it affects everybody. And but at the same time, we've got some positive ideas about it too. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is out and about. Germany is holding federal elections. Economic developments. BP is doing some stuff with a shift in policies. Going to be a big show. Some would even say make sure that you're getting on and you're follow, liking, and sharing. With that, make sure that you're sending any comments or questions into the comments. I can see them. I have them right there at the bottom of my screen. I can bring them up and put them in, have a conversation with you guys. If you're on the podcast, obviously you can't live comment. You can put comments in, and I still see those comments pop up, and I'll bring them into the show as much as possible in our next episode. But if you want us to comment on a certain article, or you want us to get to talk about something, shoot me an email. Tell me you like us. Tell me you hate us. Tell me I'm terrible. Tell me I need to work out. Whatever you want to tell me. Why I'm Angry podcast at gmail.com. Easy as that. Shoot me a message on the interwebs with a Why I'm Angry podcast email, and we'll get on. We'll check it out. We'll talk about it, and we'll get you there. So I do need to take a quick break. All right, coming out of the break here, guys. Another thing, if you'd like to support us, I put it in the comments. It's if you're listening to the podcast, it is in the description of the podcast itself. And just get on. It takes you to a separate website called Spreaker. Spreaker is who we use to distribute out all our podcasts. They also monetize our podcast for us so that we do make a little bit off of each time you listen to ads. So I do appreciate you listening to the ads through the ad break and being back and listening to me now. And again, we're going to cut you off at an hour. And then if you're on the podcast, you'll get to hear an hour. And if you're a supporter, you'll get to hear the 2 hours or hour and a half or whatever, however long-winded I am today. As much as I just talked for an hour, I may be long-winded. I may shorten it up a little bit here. But, make sure that you're getting on. You're follow, liking, and sharing us because that's free and easy. And for the support, we're not asking for $1 million. $2 a month, and you get some of these extra add-ons to podcasts. We did a couple weekends. We did a weekend update on February 15th. All of that is on the backdoor side of things. So we're trying to add some value to it and give you a place where you can support good family values and good country patriotic values. So yes, it's Why I'm Angry podcast, and these are the things that make us angry. But we're trying to get you out there thinking for yourself, giving you a place where, your voice can be heard on our email address, at whyamangrypodcast@gmail.com. Send us all those and we'll get your voice out there to the people. And we're also, anytime you want to comment in, we're here to be commented to. So, Doge, two things. One, this week it's working on the Department of Defense, making sure that it's investigating any potential misuse of funds. And it's also in the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. With that, they're facing some scrutiny, and people are upset that a lot of people are being laid off. And they're also facing major lawsuits at every turn. Anything that they're doing, they're trying to stop them. But basically, most of the lawsuits right now are not even about mass layoffs, as much as they're part of the conflicts of interest from Elon Musk, especially if he's going through departments like NASA, which he works with a lot on SpaceX. Just tonight, there was a launch of 21 satellites from SpaceX, and using NASA controls, Kennedy Space Center down in Cape Canaveral, and all of that. And so, there's a lot being said about it. There is also an article today about, or I guess this was Tuesday. Let me see if I can get into it, since I'm now in the wrong spot because I had to do a bunch of deleting because I messed up the podcast. That is probably going to be the theme. But anyhow, so there's 21 federal workers resigned yesterday. And you're going to hear that. That's going to be, if you didn't hear that today or you didn't hear that Wednesday, I didn't really, I try to stay out of the news so that I'm not reporting exactly what you saw on Fox or you saw on whatever. I'm not saying that we're like Fox or that we have a show like Fox. I'm just saying that as a conservative, I don't want to be, one of those other talking heads. But 21 workers resigned, and you're going to hear that from Doge. But and you're going to hear that they were data scientists and product managers, and that they were a group of engineers, and they refused to use their expertise to dismantle critical public services. The group also claimed Doge was recruiting politically motivated individuals who lacked the necessary expertise and believed such hires undermined government systems and jeopardized sensitive data. You're going to hear all that. That's what you're going to hear on all of your news outlets. That on top of all of everything, these guys were from Doge. They were Elon Musk's guys, and they decided to fight the system. But what you're not going to hear is the group of resignees. They were They were part of an Obama era office known as the United States Digital Services. And that office worked to modernize government technology and initially focused on issues related to the rollout of healthcare.gov. So obviously these people didn't, we've been rolled out and rolled over and rolled in and rolled down, and whatever rolling you want, rolled tide or whatever. Healthcare.gov has done that to us. So they don't need to roll out no more. So they got their area got moved into Doge. They got sucked in. And so these guys weren't Doge guys. These weren't Elon Musk's hirees. These guys were guys that had been hired by Obama. They've been around since, well, it's been now almost 8.5 years since Obama left office. These guys probably, they've been around 12-ish years or 10-ish years or whatever. These guys probably should have been rolled out years ago. These 21 workers, they want to go on and say they're going to use their expertise to dismantle critical public services. But what are critical public services? Teaching DE&I to Iranians who really weren't getting taught DE&I, because they'll kill your DE&I person any moment. You announce you're gay in Iran and you're dead. Unless you somehow get out. Why do you think they're seeking asylum here in the US? Critical public services like making sure that illegal immigrants, to say it nicer than aliens, I guess, because when you say aliens, you conjure up this green person. Either way, we didn't invite that person to come to our country. So either way, illegally. And to help that person assimilate by giving them rooms in hotels, nice hotels in New York City or Boston or whatever sanctuary city you want to love. Critical public services like, taking over the insurance industry, because it's a right. You should have the right to insurance. Honestly, I shouldn't have to have insurance at all. I should be responsible for my own body and my own health and my own decisions about my health. And this is the travesty, is because the government has mandated you to have insurance, and you now go to the doctors that the government allows you to go to because of insurance. You don't think that the government is pushing certain medications or certain kinds of ways to take care of yourself? I mean, they do tax sodas. They do tax cigarettes. Anything that they deem is not healthy for you already, they take that. So with this, they're not going to tell, public services. What are critical public services? What is a critical, what does the government, the federal government that is never going to meet you, never going to say hi, unless you know your senator, never going to have a conversation with you, not going to be a part of it, not going to touch your life. You're going to be a number to the federal government all of your life, unless you become president, a senator, a federal prosecutor, somebody in the federal government. Those are the only people they look out for. That's why there aren't term limits. That's why they vote themselves raises every year. That's 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 part of it. So, critical public services, I'm going to give you my thoughts on critical public services when we come back from trying to make a few pennies off of some advertising. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Follow, like, and share if you can. It's free, easy, and supports us like a crazy mofo. All right, guys. I said I would tell you what I felt like critical public services were. So they're going through, like I said, the Department of Defense, which has always been a joke of, $1,000 toilet seats and, millions of dollars of equipment left in Afghanistan. But it was dismantled. It was disabled. They couldn't use it. And just all kinds of government waste. $40 spoons, all kinds of things like that. And so they're going through and they're looking for misuse of funds. And honestly, $1,000 toilet, 50 of them here, 50 of them there, $50,000, no big deal. I mean, honestly, when you spend billions of dollars, $100 billion on defense, whatever it is anymore, then $50,000 isn't anything. And so, you know, that's nothing. But if that $50,000 happens 100 times, maybe that 50 toilet seats get changed at 100 bases. Now there's $5 million. And honestly, in the grand scheme of $100 billion, if we made $100,000 a year, that's $5. Okay, but that could be 50 cents. And if you did that every year, then that becomes, during a presidency, $20 million. So it's $20. And we just don't, we want to be good stewards as, especially as Christians, we want to be good stewards of the resources that we get. But the government should be good stewards of the resources that we give them. Because critical public services shouldn't be the IRS taking all of your money in taxes. shouldn't be like that's that's why we fought England. And we want to say, oh, well, we didn't know what the founding fathers were thinking. I mean, there's not the Federalist Papers, there's not, a whole account of what they were actually saying, and recorders and people writing books, and they like if we could actually read anymore, then we would know exactly what they thought. Even if you go and you look at the recorded George Washington's farewell address. He said, let's not be weary of political parties, because when you go to political parties, when political parties form, then that's a group of people, like-minded or not, that are seeking power. They're seeking to combine their forces to be more powerful than someone else. Why do you vote Republican or Democrat? Because that's where the power's at. There's only two choices. Because if you vote Green Party or you vote the Libertarian Party or whatever, you're throwing your vote away. And I hate to say that, because I think, I align a lot more often with the libertarians, or strict constructionists, or strict constitutionalists, or whatever. But there's not a group of us organized together with hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars running for office, because the system doesn't work in those parameters. It doesn't, if you go in and if we had a strong third party candidate that ran for president again, no one gets to 270 because there's three candidates running, and one of them gets, say chaos ensues, and one of them gets, a third party candidate could get 30%. Well, that only leaves 70% for the other two. And that, that means that one of the two parties gets less than 20%. Because at 270, you have to have more than half of the electorate. Not the popular vote, but the electoral college. And most of them are voting along the lines of their group, along the lines of who the popular vote is for. But if there were a third party, then there's there. But the big reason he said that is that you lose individual thought. And that's honestly what made America great to begin with. What made this experiment what it is. Because some of these guys didn't believe 100% in building a country. They were worried about 1,000 tyrants a mile away, instead of one tyrant 1,000 miles away. And with that, they but they still voted for it because their people believed in it, because their constituents, the people that they represented, voted in town halls, voted in, and so as much as some of them didn't want to even vote for it, they followed what their people wanted. They put their people ahead of themselves, and we haven't been doing that for a long time. But part of it is because the people want the handout. The people want the help because they don't realize that they could do it for themselves. I mean, think about this. If since I was 20, I put $100 in the bank for my health care. So for 20 years, there it is. So for 20 years times 12 is 240. And I put $100 in the bank here. 240 months times 100. I'd have $24,000 sitting here in the bank account for any health issues I had. And that, that seems like a lot of money. It's not a ton, but I'm paying way more than $100 a month. I'm paying somewhere around $400 or $500 a month. And if you wanted to go to that, that's 4 times that. That's, almost $100,000. And so say I did that for that. I pay about $70 a month for car insurance. I pay, for house insurance, another $50-$70 a month for that. And so you go to the point of, for 20 years, basically the time I've been working as an adult. And I multiply that out by, say, that everything that I pay in insurances, for $400-$500, you'd have over $100,000 sitting there. And say that over that time, compounding interest, say you put it in a bank account and it was 2 or 3 or 4% interest, and that's it. But say that money also is sitting there that you could invest in Bitcoin or whatever you wanted to invest in, instead of giving it to an insurance company who doesn't do anything with your money except for invest it in whatever they want to invest it in. They don't give you any money back every year that you don't use any of it. They don't pay you back and say, oh, look, we did this, or, oh, look, we, at the end of the year, we had so much extra money. We're going to give each of our people back, blah, blah, blah. They don't do that. And so that's considered critical public services. Your retirement is considered, your Social Security is considered critical public services. And they are critical now because we don't wait and save. If we took all that money and we didn't put any power into the government to regulate other than to say, safety-wise, they say, well, this is safe or this isn't safe. They haven't done a crazy good job of doing that, but just say that they do. Because what I believe critical public services is safety. So police, let them run the police. That's cool. We could have private police if we wanted, but let them run the police. Let them keep other entities out of our country. Keep us safe, run a military, and that's it. Public safety, national safety, and you let the states run the public safety. You let the federal government run the national safety, and you don't have to worry about company or groups like the FBI. You can. I mean, I guess the federal government could have an investigative group. That's fine. I don't have anything too major about that other than how they've treated people over the last 4 years, being selective in who they want to prosecute or persecute, however you want to see it. But with that also being said, you know, we know we know exactly what the founding fathers thought. And you know, we're allowing them to tax us on cigarettes and sodas and all of this stuff, and that, that's okay with us because we don't understand, because we didn't come out of the, we didn't see the actual revolution. We didn't see what they were doing. We didn't know why they dumped tea in the thing, or in the harbor. We didn't know why we were fighting for representation. We don't know anymore. We don't teach it. History it doesn't profit us anything, which I don't understand why we don't teach it, because half the things that we teach don't profit us anything. But because, no one cares. Bunch of old guys with wigs on and too many clothes. Those guys couldn't twerk. Those guys didn't entertain us. They weren't creators on YouTube. Next segment, we'll lighten it up here. But I will finish off why Doge is doing something that people don't really realize. Remember to follow, like, and share. All right, guys. So, what Doge is doing, and this is just summing it all up. Doge is working on making the government more mobile, making the government smaller. Unfortunately, that comes as cuts. And like I said, I know people that have been cut. Unfortunately, and unfortunately, because I know that they're doing a good job, and I know that there are plenty of people in the government that are doing a good job. They're working hard. They're keeping it on the level, and that they're doing the things that need to be done. And it hurts me that those people are getting cut because they're last in, first out type people, and that kind of thing. But at the same time, unfortunately, it it ends up being for the greater good, and that doesn't make it easier on people. That doesn't make it easier on anybody, honestly. It doesn't make it easier to hear. It just is the truth, I guess, is the honest truth on it. And as much as we'd like to be able to say, well, this is just not fair, unfortunately, the world's not fair. Life is not fair. And if we quit regulating things, there would be more jobs for everybody. And so that's honestly with what's going on here with BP. BP is announcing that a strategic shift. They're moving away from previous green energy goals, which is because there's a new president who doesn't isn't going to fight you into green energy goals. He's not going. He's not pushing for the Green New Deal or anything like that. He's trying to make the country self sufficient again, trying to create things here, and maybe that hurts right now. But when all heck breaks loose around us, when World War III happens, and we either don't need to get in it because we're self sufficient, then we don't care then. But at the same time, he's the country is becoming more mobile. Things are moving fast. Things are being done that I never thought would happen. I had kind of at one point I'd kind of lost my faith in humanity, faith in governments, faith in the world of we're going to change things. And honestly, I'm leery. What happens in the next 4 years? What happens in year 5? Who gets elected? What happens then? 4 years really isn't that long. I mean, as long as your kid goes from uh, you know one to preschool or to kindergarten, and that's a whole age era basically of toddlerdom. And so yes, that in that is a long time, but it goes by quick. And so 4 years isn't that long to be able to do a bunch of things. And so I think that right now he's doing a bunch of things, and hopefully then by the time he leaves, it's regulated and it's purring, it's running smooth, and that he can leave this place in a little bit better place for his kids, for us, for whatever. We could be wrong, but we'll know here in about 6 to 8 months when Doge has kind of gone through everything that it's supposed to go through, and if they cede power and dissipate, or they turn into a more watchdog group, kind of like the inspectors group. And so, we'll see. Again, a group of people can become powerful or can seek power. And that's that. So let's do the exercise in hooliganism. We're going to get into that again. Okay, so straight to it. Big week of soccer this week. MLS opened up, and we had a few big matches that really are starting, kind of show. It was kind of exciting to see who everybody was after last year's moves and acquisitions and all of that after the transfer market. And I was worried because the Crew, we lost two of our big name players. We still have Diego Rossi. We still have whatchamacallit in the middle that gave us, has scored quite a bit, helped us out. Let me find his name so I don't just say guy up the middle. Jason Russell Rowe. He scored a goal, so we still have him. Big tall dude, and just not sure where the production is going to go after we sell Zelarayan last year or 2 years ago, and then we sell Christian Ramirez and we sell Cucho Hernandez both this year, and then they accounted for runner up for the MVP and just a great sub on replacement for Kucha. So game played out. Columbus Crew, Chicago 4-2. 4-2 seems like a pretty good win. Diego Rossi had 2 goals, which is exactly what we needed him to do. Jason Russell Rose scored a goal. Again, exactly what we needed him to do. And then Carlos Turan from Chicago scored a goal. So we really only scored 3 goals. They scored a goal for us. And, I mean, obviously, it was pinging and stuff like that. And that's where we get the own goal. But Brian Gutierrez scored 2 goals for Chicago. But then his yellow card in the game became a red card during disciplinary review. So he's going to be out for a game now. We come out victorious. And then with this, if you look at the standings for the league, one game in. I showed 2 fingers for those on the podcast. 1 game in. Columbus is at the top of the league because we start with a C. Columbus and Philadelphia both won 4-2, taking a 2-goal differential and 3 points. Atlanta, Cincinnati, Charlotte, that rounds out the top 5 in the Eastern Conference. So good start. Cincinnati, they won 1-0, giving them a 1-goal differential. At the top of the Western Conference, San Jose. Yeah. 4-0. Vancouver, San Diego, brand new team. FC Dallas and LAFC round out the top 5. Somehow the Broccoli Eaters, they got a win, so they're number 6 in the Western Conference. And if you don't know who they are, it doesn't really matter. But big wins. LAFC beat Minnesota. Atlanta won their game. I don't see. Oh, Atlanta beat Montreal. Inter Miami, that was an interesting game. Looked like they were going to lose 2-1. Messi comes in, or Messi was in, but Messi comes through with a big assist and scores. They score the second goal to clear, to tie it up. And then at the end of the game, Messi, Suarez, a little upset with the red card called in the 23rd minute, and so they I guess it cost the ref, just giving him the business. Ref gives him a yellow card. He comes back around. He kind of puts his hand, grabs onto the ref's neck, I guess, and with that, it has been some disciplinary action. They've fined Suarez and Messi a undisclosed amount. So they won't. I guess they just got the undisclosed amount. So they're just gonna lose a few dollars. Don't know how much that is, how little that is. It is against the rules to touch or accost the refs. So that any hands to the face, any pushing, any hitting, things of that nature are obviously against the rules. So don't put your hands on the ref, and you're good to go. Seattle tied with Charlotte. San Jose beat Real Salt Lake, which honestly, Real Salt Lake, I'd like to see what San Jose does next week. But Bruce Arena does it again, pulls out a big victory in the beginning, giving some people some things to shout about. I heard that San Jose was chanting Bruce Arena at the end of the game. So Vancouver takes out Portland 4-1 in a this is the Sunday game. with a red card going to Portland. So Portland played at least a portion of the game, a man down, and San Diego coming out in their first game of the MLS World, their MLS life against LA Galaxy, the reigning champions, 2-0. And so exciting times for them. Big games this weekend. You got Charlotte versus Atlanta. You got Seattle is going to play Real Salt Lake, so should be a nice high scoring event. Columbus playing New England. Cincinnati and Philadelphia should be a grudge match. Cincinnati took Philadelphia's coach, manager, and Philadelphia is kind of struggling to get back to that, but obviously won 4-2 last week, and Cincinnati did pull off the win last week also. Cincinnati beat the Red Bulls, so not a bad team to beat. Beyond that, let's see. You got LAFC against New York City. You've got FC Dallas against Colorado, which should be a decent one. We'll see how good FC Dallas really is. And they've made a bunch of moves to kind of push people here, push people there. They picked up the big forward from Cincinnati that wanted to leave, and so there are some things there. The Sunday game is Vancouver and LA, and Inter Miami, which is always the Sunday game, and Houston Dynamo. So should be interesting. 5:00 game for the first one, 7:00 game for the Miami game, and those should be on some kind of network. I don't remember what they finally did get network wise. They'll definitely both be on MLS Pass. Other than that, it doesn't say exactly. Not sure where that's at. If they're still working with Fox any. Honestly, I don't quite know. But that's kind of the whip around for the MLS. Big games, Premier League games this week. You had Liverpool beat Newcastle 2-0. Brentford beat Everton 1-1. So didn't beat them; they tied them. Should have looked at that ahead of time. Manchester United beat Ipswich 3-2. Forest and Arsenal tied. Spurs lose to Man City 0-1. You got Copa del Rey. Real Sociedad lost to Real Madrid. And then you've got Leipzig and Wolfsburg played 1-0. And Juventus tied to Empoli 1-1. And that's the Coppa Italia game, or quarterfinal. So they had to play that to penalty kicks, and Empoli won 4-2 on penalty kicks. There's a big story, or a story kind of coming through. First team to really do this. I thought this was a little different, but Brentford said they will become the first English club to include microchips in the shirts worn by players on match days. So the microchips will prove that their authenticity to combat the market for counterfeit kits. Research has found that the sale of counterfeit Premier League shirts has generated as much as $180 million. So what this is kind of saying is that only the game worn shirts are being microchipped, which honestly is a good idea. Honestly, it helps with authentication. It helps take away the need for a third-party authenticator like Beckett or like PSA or JSA. I mean, PSA has always had their PSA DNA, and so and I worked with Beckett for a while, and work just in the industry with memorabilia, sports memorabilia, and buying and selling and things of that nature. And so, this would make it almost sure proof that you're supposed to be on like an RFID chip that you can run your phone over, and it shows you who it was, what date it was, just some quick general information. The technology is already being used in the Netherlands at PSV, Feyenoord, and Anderlecht. Anderlecht already uses the technology, and basically, it's just a chip that is heat pressed into the bottom of the shirt. So then you can kind of confirm who wore it and what date. Again, otherwise, like I'm not sure, like how this is going to crack down on the counterfeit shirts, unless it really like I guess I haven't noticed that game worn shirts are they are a big thing and there are a big collectability. But honestly, like for soccer, you know a lot of the jerseys, maybe a counterfeit jersey sell, or a game worn jersey by a certain player may sell for $1,000 or something like that, or whatever. Maybe Messi sells for more, but to get to $1 million, you've got to have a thousand. You got to be selling thousands of those shirts, and yeah, it's a big thing. Sports, soccer is a big thing, but you got to think, how many of those 100,000 fans or 200,000 fans does each team have, or a million fans that each team has that's gonna put up $1,000 for a game worn jersey, and I would think that the bigger impact would be to you know microchip authentics, where you're selling them for $130, and maybe you're selling 50,000 jerseys, and then where any of these Chinese knockoffs, as you're going in, they could have an RFID scanner, and if you're walking in with a Chinese knockoff, then there's like, no, you can't wear that jersey in here. You got to have only authentic jerseys. And so, like, because they have different levels, they have like the replicas, which cost maybe 70, 60, or $70, and then they have the authentics, which cost maybe $100, $130, $150. I was just at Dick's Sporting Goods the other day, and the authentics cost like $130, and then so then game worn obviously is up from there. Columbus Crew players, couple $100, 500 maybe, for certain players and certain games and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is being able to authenticate that jersey down to, that game. He scored this goal. He won the championship in this jersey or whatever. That's what people want, that piece of the experience. And so, with that being said, then yeah, maybe this is a great idea. So that but I'm not sure that it says, more generally, clubs are cracking down on counterfeit shirts. This season, championship side Sheffield Wednesday warned that supporters wearing fake shirts could be ejected from their stadium due to the impact on club revenues. And see, this is where I think that those RFID chips or something like that you could put in the tag that says it's real or not. Yes, you can still fake those somewhat, but if you're selling a $10 shirt or $10 jersey, some of these fakes are 10, $20, and people are wearing them to the stadium or whatever. 10, $20, you're making a jersey. You don't want to spend anything more to put those RFID chips in. And they're cheap. I mean, I understand. But it just gives you another level of it's hard to fake. And honestly, in the memorabilia or replica or collector's market, if you can sell it for a couple bucks, people are going to fake it. They're gonna figure out how to fake it and make money off of it. That's it. I mean, it's as silly as it is. Baseball cards, Pokemon cards, anything like that, they're counterfeiting them. Whether they're $5 or $20 or 50 or $10,000. As it doesn't have to be Wayne Gretzky's rookie card. In a 9 or a 10 is worth $1,000,000. It it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be that. It can be something as easy and small as, you know, Billy Ripken's rookie card or the FU card. That's, $500-600. So if it has some value, something better than a penny, a buck or two, they're gonna still counterfeit it. I mean, they counterfeit dollar bills. So there's never going to be 100% fix, but so on. We're running up against the break here. Have to have to do a break so that we can get our few pennies. But remember, follow, like, and share us if you want to support us on the flip side of things and help us out. You know, go to the link below in the comment section, or in the if you're on the podcast, or in the section that is in the description of the podcast itself. Should be good to go. And just help us out. We'll be back in about 90 seconds. Okay, coming out of the break here. Remember, if you want to be a part of the podcast, comment on our podcast or send us messages, articles we missed, things of that nature to the Why I'm Angry podcast. Tell me how much you hate soccer or anything like that, and let me know. Just shoot us a message. Didn't want to take too much more time on the soccer side of things. Just wanted one segment of just let it out, let me be me, and all of that. But I did want to talk. I did see an interesting article about the oldest player in football or soccer. He's turning 58 years old. He's playing professionally still. He's in the fourth tier now in um, Japan, and he just back in 92 he scored, or back starting in the year 92 he scored 55 goals in 89 international appearances. That's pretty decent. He was in 89 international appearances between 1990 and 2000. 10 years. He's no longer a international. He's playing just in Japan. He's on loan from a second tier team in the fourth division. Still chilling, still playing. Good on him for staying in shape well enough to 58. He did play for Santos in 86 in Brazil. He's also played in Italy, Croatia, Australia, and Portugal. And just he's known as the King Kazu. So happy birthday. Oldest player in Japanese Football League. still killing it. So got one more article before we close down the live and free podcast. We'll have some more. I have some humorous articles as we go into the overtime hour, the extra time. I'm not sure what we're gonna call it, but you know, it is the time behind the paywall. So just one last article here. Keep things again lightish. In Jacksonville, Florida, found a video from a body cam of a man who was accidentally shot by an officer with his own gun. And so I watched the video because this could go a couple ways. You know, he hands the gun to the officer shoots him right out of the car, things like that. But and I wanted to know what the traffic stop was. Everybody on edge. What's the deal? I'm not even sure, like 100% what the feeling was at the time, but just off the video, it seemed pretty chill. Guy blew through a stop sign. Officer comes up and he says, "You blew through a stop sign." The guy's like, "Okay." He's like, "You got anything crazy in the car?" And he's like, "Yes." He goes, "What you got?" He said, "I got a gun." He goes, "Where's it at?" He goes, "It's on me." And he says, "Okay, will you step out of the vehicle for me?" And then he says something you can't understand on the body cam. And as he's getting out, there's two other officers already on the other side. He walks around, the body cam shows him walking around the vehicle. And then you see a woman cop who pulls, I guess, like it sounds like from just the descriptions on the video and stuff, she tugs on the gun twice, and he then gets shot by his own gun. And so you wonder, like there's a couple things that, you're like, what's the deal here? Why? For one, this is something that I've already, like, I've addressed at length, almost at nauseum sometimes, is how little the officers sometimes get extra training, how little training they get on actually handling their gun and things like that, other than to shoot their gun. They get target practice and that, and all of that kind of thing. But one thing they don't teach a lot of, unless they get the right trainer or the right person involved, or somebody who's a veteran who's been involved in issues, because 90% of cops will never be involved in a gun shooting. They'll never have to shoot their gun. They'll never have to, maybe they have to pull a gun, but a lot of them, it's writing tickets, and they don't have to deal with the violent crimes or things like that. And so a lot of times you get a police officer who's just newly trained. And I think we take this for granted a lot of times in any job, is that the nuances of things. Like, we don't train for the worst thing that can happen very often, because it doesn't happen that often. But when it does, it's bad. Like, she just shot this guy in the leg with his own gun. And so, I think that comes to a head on it more than really anything else. It's that, was she ever given the right amount of training? Was she ever given what she needed to be able to do her job? And so when confronted with something like this, you know, the person on the interview was saying the other side of it is is How unlucky do you have to to run a stop sign, happen to be 3 officers somehow on scene. Maybe they, maybe when they pulled up, they saw, there was something on his record or something on the license plate. I don't know. But 3 officers pull up, and somehow you get the one person who doesn't realize that if you put your, put your gun, put like if you pull it on it, you're putting your hand in an area where it's easy to go off. Now, it was funny because one of the lawyers was like, the fact that she's putting her hand on the trigger, it's guns are small, handguns are small. Anytime you put your hand on the handle, your finger or hand is near the trigger. Like, it's silly to think that, you know, she may not have even put her hand in there and pulled on, like actually put her hand on the trigger. It looked like a Glock. It was a very square gun that she put on the ground after she shot the guy. But I mean, she did look like scared as can be. Like, oh, I shot. Like, I can't believe. What do we do? What just happened? Type thing. So her, it it's an unfortunate accident. You know, 100%. And at the end of this video article, she's getting fired. Unfortunately, the city of Jacksonville, the police department in Jacksonville is getting sued. They investigated and found that she was negligent, or at least underqualified to be in that position, and they are yeah, they're letting her go. So sad that somebody loses their job, but at the same time, maybe it's not the job for you, and not everybody can do the same job as anybody else. So we're finding that out in the government this last couple of months here, and just another life lesson. Although it is one of those life lessons that you probably maybe you just learn from this video and you don't go learning on your own type deal. So with that, we're going to shut this down. Great podcasting with you guys. Great talking back and forth, interacting. Again, if you have any questions or anything, or you have any articles that you want to send out to, get a little chef perspective, why I'm angry podcast at gmail.com. If you have subjects that you want us to do a little research on and talk about, I'm hoping to get Moggs back on here shortly. Again, send your message to whyimangrypodcast at gmail.com. Shoot me comments, follows, likes, and shares. Those all help keep us up at the top of the list, being discovered and by other people. And the more we get discovered, the more likes and shares we get. Obviously, the better production that we can have, because we have more income coming in, the more followers we have, and all of that. So keep that going. And, like I said, the Why I'm Angry podcast, it ends now.